Is Ron still doing, is it 35 point, 45 point? That may have been Silverthorne that he was doing that.
No, I think it's 30 a point.
Okay. Is he still doing that on amended, or does he just do the original
On
fine?
amended, he does that.
Okay.
I believe we are on the record.
Excellent. All right.
Please rise. Today is the 18th day of September in the year 2024. The Frisco Municipal Court is now in session with the Honorable Judge Stephen O'Connor presiding.
Thanks, folks. You can grab a seat. I appreciate it. We're going to get started here. The first case the court is going to call is no
Sorry.
problem. Thanks, folks. We're going to get started here. The first case the court's going to call is going to be case number 07057, people of the town of Frisco versus Christopher Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt, if you would join us at that podium there, sir, I would appreciate it. All right, sir. So the paperwork that I have here in front of me indicates that we're going to be amending the charge, the original charge, from a 6-point speeding to a 4-point speeding offense. And I have a plea of guilty here in front of me. I'm going to ask you a few questions about that, but generally speaking, is that your understanding of what we're going to be doing here today? Okay, excellent. On this form in the bottom right-hand corner, which you probably can't see from all the way back there, but I do see that there's a signature on the bottom right-hand corner of this form. Do you recall signing this form?
Yeah.
Did you have any questions about this form before you signed it?
Yeah.
Okay, do you understand the effect of this form? All right. I also have here an advisement of your legal rights. Same question, bottom right-hand corner. Do you recall signing that form, sir? Did you have any questions about that form before you signed it? Okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions just to make sure that we all have our bearings here relative to getting this plea entered for you today. First question I have for you is, do you understand the nature of the charge and the elements of the offense with which you've been charged, which is the speeding 6-point offense? Do you understand what that charge is? Okay. Do you understand that if you were to plead not guilty, the people would have to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt at a trial before you could be convicted? Do you understand what a trial is?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that by signing this form, you're agreeing to give up your right to a trial in exchange to plead to an amended 4-point charge for speeding 10 to 19 miles an hour over the speed limit?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone force you, coerce you, or otherwise make you any additional promises beyond what's contained on the 4 corners of this form to get you to sign this form?
No.
Okay. Do you understand that the maximum penalty that we can issue to you here in the municipal court in Frisco is a fine of up to $1,000 and or a year in jail? We're not near either of those thresholds. I just want to make sure you understand those are the maximums that could be assessed to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or other intoxicants that would otherwise affect your ability to understand what we're doing here today?
Okay.
All right. And do you admit that there's a factual basis for the plea? In plain English, that just means there was some underlying event that leads us here today that supports us entering this plea. Okay. To the amended charge of speeding 10 to 19 miles an hour over the speed limit, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
All right. Court finds that the plea is made knowingly and voluntarily. Court is going to accept the plea and enter a conviction for speeding 10 to 19 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's a 4-point offense against your privilege to drive here in the state of Colorado. You only get 12, so keep them sacred. I'm going to go ahead and sign this form for you here. The fine that the court's going to assess you is going to be for $120. And there are some court costs and fees, which are?
Court costs are 30, surcharge is 25.
So that should be $175, right? I think so.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So do you have the ability to pay the $175 today, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this paperwork over to the clerk and we'll get you all sorted, we'll get you squared away. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. It's a place to put the fines on the police, or do you just track them?
I just track them.
Okay, super. I'll let you do the math then. That makes my life much easier. All right, sir, you can just see Janice over here and we'll get you all set. Thank you.
There, sir.
Next case the court will call will be summons number 07518, people of the town of Frisco versus Mr. Malev. And I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. Sir, will you join us up here at the podium? How do I pronounce your last name, sir, so I can make sure I get Milev? All right, Mr. Milev. Well, listen, I've got some paperwork in front of me here. The first form that I'm gonna show to you here is your advisement of legal rights. Bottom right-hand corner of that form, there's a signature. Do you recall receiving this form and signing it?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about this form before you signed it? Okay. I don't have any additional paperwork here in front of me relative to a plea for guilty or for not guilty. So tell me how you'd like to proceed with this case. I understand you've spoken with the prosecutor. You've got effectively three options at this point. Okay, your first option is you can ask for a continuance, which is more time to think about the case. If you ask for a continuance, what I will do is I will set you over for an appearance at our October session. Okay. At that point, we'd have you come back and make a decision about what you'd want to do from there. You also have the option, if you would like, to plead guilty to the charge, in which case I'll ask you a few questions about pleading guilty to the charge. And if you decide to do that, then we'll enter a conviction and we'll talk about some sentencing. Your third option is if you don't want to plead guilty and you don't need any more time to make a decision, you can always plead not guilty. If you'd like to plead not guilty, what we will do is we will set you over for a trial. The trial will probably take place at our October session. We don't do those the same day. So if you wanted to plead not guilty today, we would set you for an additional court date to come back, and we would have the trial for you probably in the evening, sometime in mid-October, because we meet the third Wednesday of every month. I think it's the 16th of October, but we'll get you paperwork to that effect. Of those three options, well, I guess I'll pause there. Do you have any questions about those three options?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, which of the three would you like to do, sir?
Okay, no,
Okay,
may I present some documents to support my case?
so you certainly can, but not today. Okay, and the reason why I say that is ultimately when the court takes evidence from you relative to the charge, we will do that in the trial. So we will set you for a trial. I'll talk a little bit about how we do that in just a moment. When we have the trial, and we should have a form that will explain some things about trial procedure for you. But when we set the trial, what you'll do is you'll come back and appear on the date of the trial. Prosecutor will present their side of the case first. Okay, so usually that involves calling the officer if there's any radar or anything like that. They'll present whatever evidence they have, and then you will have an opportunity to present evidence there yourself, should you like to. You don't have to. You have a constitutional right not to do that if you would not like to, but if you want to, you can. When you bring in your evidence, just about anything that you can bring will be useful. So if you have somebody who is in the car with you might testify about the speed. Excellent.
89.
Gotcha. Understood. So when we set you for the trial, come back, bring all that data and information with you. You can then present that to the court, and then we'll make a decision from there whether there's a conviction if the people have met their burden, or if the people haven't met their burden, you'll be found not guilty. Other than being out a little bit extra time, walk out the door scot-free. Does that make sense? Okay, so keep all that data and information handy, because when we actually start the trial, that's when the court will accept evidence from you, and we'll go through, we'll review it, and we'll make a determination from there based on whatever the evidence presented is. Any questions about that?
Questions. The only thing is it illegal to present myself?
It certainly is, if you'd like to. Yep, you also have the opportunity to get an attorney. I will tell you, in municipal court, generally speaking, people have the kind of concept of getting a public defender, right? Or maybe getting a lawyer appointed for them if they can't afford one. In this instance, although this is a 6-point offense, I wouldn't assess any jail time. So the right to counsel in terms of when appointed for you would not attach. You are welcome to get a lawyer if you would like to. You are not required to get a lawyer. So if you wanted to present that evidence yourself, you can, and the court will assist you kind of working through the processes of a trial. You will be bound to the same rules of evidence that the prosecutor will be, but the court has a little bit of latitude to kind of guide you through that to make sure we get the information from you that we need. Make sense? Any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just formally how you're going to plead to the charge. You'll tell me, and then we'll go ahead and we'll set you for the trial. Okay, so to the original charge of speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour over the speed limit, which is a 6-point offense against your privilege to drive. How do you plead, sir? Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty. The court will accept your plea of not guilty. We'll go ahead and set this matter over for a trial. Can we do one in October?
I have to, if we can, let's keep it to November 20th.
November?
Yeah.
Okay, what date in November?
November 20th,
November 20th. How close is that to Thanksgiving? Let me just check.
week before. The 28th is Thanksgiving.
Okay. The week before Thanksgiving. Will you be available for a trial the week before Thanksgiving, sir?
I'll make myself available, you know, I just wanna be here.
Understood. So we will set you for a trial appearance on November the 20th. One thing that I will tell you is if you need a subpoena, so if you have any witnesses who are giving you any difficulty about coming into court, the officer will be here, et cetera. But if there's anyone else that you want to be compelled to come to court, just reach out to the town. We can get a subpoena issued for you. And then you serve that, that'll compel their appearance if you need that.
Yeah,
Okay?
my mom is 89. I'm not sure if she's gonna be able to travel. I just brought her in today just because I didn't know the whole process. I thought I can present my case today, but so I probably will need some help on how I can get her evidence, or you know, and she's not English speaking. That's the whole problem. She's Bulgarian speaking.
Okay.
I was with my mom and my kids, so.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I will tell you, just generally speaking, I mean, the problem is, and I don't mean this as any offense to your mother, but we can usually set up a virtual appearance if your mother doesn't want to travel. The difficulty will be getting the computer set up to get her on webcam. If there's someone who can assist her with that, that would be great. Relative to the translation issue,
We have a language line that
we have a language line, so we can arrange for an interpreter for that proceeding for her. So if you want to figure out a way to make arrangements for her to appear via either, we could do telephone or we could do video. I'll just authorize that now. I'll spare you having to do a motion that for your mother specifically. Okay, so if you want other witnesses, that you'd have to ask the court for them to appear telephonically or virtually. For your mother specifically, I'll authorize that today so that she can call into that proceeding if you like, and we can arrange for an interpreter. You said Bulgarian?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that work for us? Excellent. All right. So we'll have a little bit of paperwork for you just to remind you of your trial date in November on the 20th. I will tell you, if you don't show up for the trial on the 20th, not my expectation, but I just have to advise you, it is possible that a conviction could enter against you. Okay. So just make sure that you're here on the 20th. If you have any issues with that date, reach out to us sooner the better so that we can work around that for you. Okay. Any questions?
Appreciate your.
Excellent. You're all set. So we'll get you a little bit of paperwork right over here. You enjoy the rest of your day. Drive safe getting home. Thank you. All right. The next case the court will call will be case number 07875. People of the town of Frisco versus Consuelo Cachon. And I apologize if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. And you can step right up to the podium here if you don't mind. And how are you today?
Doing well, but I was thinking, excuse me, sir, may I back in November? Because I understand English, but I prefer a translator, please,
For in which language, ma'am?
in Spanish.
Do we have a Spanish translator?
We can get the language line right now.
Okay, we can arrange for an interpreter to talk with you via telephone now. Would you like to do that? Okay. And what I'll do, ma'am, is I'm just gonna pass your case for the time being so that you can speak with the interpreter. Make sure that you've got the lay of the land and know what's going on before we do anything further, okay? So you can just grab a seat. We'll be with you in just a moment. Thank you. And Nick, just so you know, we've set a trial for November the 20th.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're about to set another one.
Okay, sounds good. Actually, let me ask you, do you want to do them the same day?
Uh,
I think we can probably set for December without a speedy. I'll have to calculate it, but I think we could if
yeah,
you
we
wanted
don't
to.
have-
Okay, okay,
Yeah, we're gonna have to do.
you got it.
Will you be back here for that or will it be Ron?
It'll be Ron in November.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You bet.
Thank you.
You bet.
Please introduce yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I will have to transfer you to an interpreter then, I apologize. 1 second. I will transfer you.
Thank you.
Please hold for the next available client services representative.
Hello, my name is Janice. I'm calling from the Frisco Municipal Court. I have Ms. Cashon here as the defendant and the Honorable Judge Stephen O'Connor presiding over our court. We just need her to have a translator for that session.
I'm sorry, for what language will it be?
Spanish.
For Spanish.
Okay, 1 moment and I'll get you an interpreter.
You will be connected to the next available interpreter. So that your interpreter may better assist you, please speak in short, clear statements.
Good afternoon, my name is Austin and I will be your Spanish interpreter 404873.
Thank
I'll
you.
interpret everything you say and keep it confidential. How may I help you?
Thank you, Austin. My name is Janice. I'm calling from the Frisco Municipal Court. We need a Spanish interpreter. The defendant's name is Ms. Cashon, and the court is being presided by the Honorable Judge Stephen O'Connor. You are on a cell phone on speaker, so the louder you can talk, the better.
Of course, I introduce myself to the other party.
Yes.
Thank you. Buenas tardes, seré su intérprete de inglés. Interpretaré todo lo que diga y lo mantendré confidencial. Por favor, hable en frases cortas. ¿Me permite continuar?
Sí, señor.
Gracias. Go ahead, ma'am.
Is it easier if I come over there?
Probably.
Okay, bear with me. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Stephen O'Connor. I'm the municipal judge for the town of Frisco. Do you mind if I swear you in and take the translator oath really quickly?
This interpreter speaking, ma'am, that was for me, correct?
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will translate faithfully from the English language to the Spanish language and from the Spanish language to the English language to the best of your ability?
Yes, I do.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so Ms. Cashon, we are here with some paperwork that indicates to me that you are entering into a plea of guilty.
Sí, señora García, estamos aquí porque tenemos un papeleo. Usted está aquí esperándose con una petición de que usted está culpable.
The plea of guilty form indicates to me that you will be pleading guilty to a charge of a special hazard, which is a 3-point offense.
Entrando a una petición de culpabilidad, significa que usted está culpable y tiene un cargo en un riesgo especial con 3 puntos.
Is that how you wish to proceed today?
Así decidiría usted proceder hoy.
¿Cuál sería? Quisiera que me gustaría saber en qué me perjudicaría eso en mi récord de manejo.
I would like to know how this would affect my driving record.
Certainly. So the assessment is for 3 points against your privilege to drive.
Claro que sí. El evalúo es de 3 puntos contra su habilidad de manejar.
You have 12 total in the state of Colorado.
Usted tiene 12 en total en el estado de Colorado.
Based on your driving record, I see that there was a conviction in 2015 for 2 points.
Basado en su expediente de manejo, veo que tuvo una convicción en 2015 de manejo.
Those points should not factor into the 12, given the date of that conviction.
Esos puntos no serían incluidos en los 12 puntos que tiene ahorita.
So it looks to me, based on your record, that 3 of your 12 points that you have in Colorado will be taken away, but your driving privileges will remain intact.
Entonces, me parece que en su expediente, 3 de sus 12 puntos que tiene en Colorado van a ser revueltos y su privilegio de manejo va a seguir.
It is very likely that your insurance could increase substantially, but it wouldn't affect your privilege to drive.
Puede ser muy probable que el costo de su seguro pueda subir bastantemente, pero no afectaría su habilidad de manejar.
Ya. ¿Y cuánto tiempo va a durar esa pena de los 3 puntos?
And how long will those 3-point penalties be on there for?
So it will always be on your driving record. The points renew yearly, though. So for example, I still have the 2015 charge, but those points don't get counted towards this.
Interpreter needs clarification. Un momento, por favor.
Sure.
Ma'am, just to clarify, the line cut out, but you said that the point 2015 will remain on record, but will not be added onto the 12, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Siempre van a estar esos puntos en su expediente de manejo, pero los puntos se renuevan anualmente. Por ejemplo, aquí veo que tiene igual los puntos de 2015, pero esos no están agregados en los 12 puntos que tiene ahorita.
Okay. Bueno, no me parece justo porque cuando yo iba a recoger a un hijo y no me había acordado que había tomado una pastilla para la diarrea y en ese rato me apuró a ir al baño, por eso yo manejé saliendo a las 70 a Walmart para buscar un baño. Quisiera que le explique eso al juez.
There needs clarification. One moment, please, ma'am. Señora, para clarificar, usted dice que usted no piensa que eso es justo porque está recogiendo a su hijo y se le olvidó que tomó una pastilla para diarrea, ¿correcto?
Sí,
Así es.
y estaba buscando un baño, por eso aceleré y el policía no me dejó explicar. Ya, nada más, señora.
Well, I do not think it's fair because when I was driving, I was picking up my son and I didn't remember that I took a pill for diarrhea. And I had to use the bathroom, so I left from the 70 towards the Walmart looking for a bathroom. That's why I had accelerated. And the police officer let me explain that to him.
So I understand that, ma'am. I will tell you that from my perspective today, you've got 3 options, okay? The first option is you can enter into a plea of guilty, which is the form that I have here.
Yo entiendo, señora, pero de mi perspectiva, como lo veo hoy, tiene 3 opciones. La primera opción sería que usted entrara a una petición de culpable, que es la forma que tengo aquí.
The second option is you can plead not guilty, at which point we will hold a trial for you in November. And you can try and explain to the court at that point about what happened here and why you believe you may not be guilty.
La segunda opción sería que usted entre una petición de que no fue culpable usted, y en ese entonces tendríamos un juicio en noviembre donde usted tendría que intentar de explicarle a la corte qué fue lo que sucedió y por qué no piensa que es culpable usted.
The third option is if you need some time to think about what you'd like to do here, you can always ask for more time, and that's what we call a continuance, and we would have you come back at a later court date.
La tercera opción sería si usted quiere tomar algo de tiempo para pensar sobre qué es lo que quiere hacer. Usted podría preguntar para que tenga más tiempo, llamaría una continuanza y podría venir a la corte en otro día.
That choice is yours to make. I will tell you that speeding is what we call a strict liability crime, which means that in order to prove you guilty, the only thing the prosecutor needs to show is that you were going over the speed limit.
Esta decisión es para usted solamente. Lo que le voy a decir es que acelerando más de lo que está posteado en la señal es un crimen de habilidad estricta y la única cosa que se necesita para poder probar que usted es culpable es la prueba de que usted sí estaba manejando a la velocidad más de lo que estaba en la señal.
The choice about which of those three options you would like is entirely up to you. So you can either plead guilty and I'll use this form, plead not guilty, we can set for a trial, or you can ask for some more time to think about what you'd like to do.
Esa decisión es completamente decisión suya. Las tres opciones son toda su decisión. Entonces sería o entrar en una petición de culpable, en una petición de no culpable que podríamos usar, o sería que usted pida por más tiempo para pensar en lo que es lo que quiere hacer.
Es que, ¿cuánto tiempo va a tomar? Yo no tengo mucho tiempo. Ahora he pedido permiso del trabajo. ¿Y cuánto hay que pagar? No tengo la menor idea. ¿Podría preguntarle?
How long would that take? I don't have much time. I haven't had past work for more time. And how much would I have to pay?
How long would what take? Can you clarify that for me?
La
¿Podría
oferta.
clarificar cuánto tiempo tomaría qué cosa?
No, o sea, yo no tengo tiempo para volver a venir a la corte porque tengo que trabajar. He pedido permiso al trabajo.
Well, I don't have time to come back to the court. I have to work.
Ujú. Entonces, me declararía culpable, pero la pregunta es, ¿cuánto tengo que pagar y cuándo? ¿Hoy o mañana? No sé.
Interpreter needs clarification. One moment, please, ma'am. Señora, para clarificar, usted dice que sí quería ser culpable, ¿correcto?
Ujú. Sí, pues no tengo otra opción.
Gracias. So I'd say guilty then, but the question is, how much do I have to pay and when do I have to pay? Today or tomorrow?
So if you decide to plead guilty, we will go through the sentencing. I can tell you right now that your fines would be $90 for the fines and then $55 in court costs and fees. So your total would be $145.
Ay, ya sé.
We can do.
Interpreter needs a petition. Un momento, por favor. Ma'am, could you repeat the total, please?
$145.
Thank you. Entonces, si decide usted entrar en la petición de culpable,
Ujú.
seríamos una forma y de lo que tiene aquí, las facturas tendrían $90 por las señales, las señas, y $55 por los costos de la corte y también por las tarifas de la corte, que serían $145.
Ya, está bien. Eso lo tengo que pagar con tarjeta, con cheque. No tengo cash.
That's fine. Would I have to pay with card or check? I just don't have cash.
Take cards.
Like any form of
Okay,
payment.
cards would be fine, yeah. You bet.
Because estaría bien.
Okay. So with that being said, how would you like to proceed today?
Entonces, con todo eso, haber sido dicho, ¿cómo quiere proceder hoy?
A la primera opción, que me declaro culpable y que son los 3 puntos que me va a afectar en el récord.
I will go with the first option, that I plead guilty and take those 3 points that will be on my record.
So I do have to ask you a few questions and then we can wrap this up for you and get you moving along, okay?
Entonces, si le tengo que hacer unas preguntas y después podremos terminar esto, ¿está bien?
Creo que sí.
I'm going to show you this first form. I apologize. I'm going to show you this first form, which is a description and advisement of your rights, which is in the Spanish language.
Ujú.
Entonces, lo que les estoy enseñando aquí, en esta hoja, es una descripción y aviso de sus derechos.
On the back of this form, I see that there's a signature. Is that your signature?
Atrás del papeleo necesito su firma.
Allá, ahí la puse.
I put it there.
Did you have any questions about that form before you signed?
¿Tiene alguna pregunta sobre esa forma antes de que la firme?
No.
The next form I will show you is the guilty plea form. In the bottom left-hand corner, there is a signature. Is that your signature?
La próxima forma que le voy a enseñar es la petición de culpable y atrás, abajo a la izquierda, ahí debe estar su firma. ¿Esa es su firma?
Sí.
Yes, that's my form.
Did you understand this form when you signed it, or do you have any questions?
No.
¿Usted entendió esa forma cuando la firmó o
Sí.
tiene preguntas?
No, sí lo entendí.
No, I understand.
Do you understand that by entering into a guilty plea, you are giving up your right to a trial?
Usted entiende que entrando en una petición de culpable, usted está retirándose el derecho de ir a un juicio.
Sí, sí entendí.
Yes, I understand.
And do you know what a trial is?
¿Y usted sabe lo que es un juicio?
Sí tengo idea de que es un juicio. No es nada bueno.
I have an idea.
Did anyone force you to sign this form or make you any promises that are not listed on this form to get you to sign this?
¿Alguien la forzó a que escriba en la forma su nombre o le hizo alguna promesa que no está escrita para que usted haga su firma?
No, nadie.
No, no one.
And do you understand that the maximum penalties that the court could assess you here is a fine of up to $1,000 and or 1 year in jail?
1 year, yes?
Y usted entiende que el penal más grave que podría hacer la corte sería una tarifa de $1,000 o hasta 1 año en la cárcel.
That will not be the fine and you will not have jail time, but I do have to advise you of the maximum possible penalties.
Eso no va a ser la tarifa y tampoco va a ir a la cárcel, pero yo tengo que igual que advertirle sobre eso.
Sí entiendo.
Okay, I understand.
All right. And are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or other intoxicants that would affect your ability to enter into this plea today?
¿Y usted está bajo la influencia de alcohol, cualquier otra droga que haría que tomó su decisión hoy?
No, no tengo ni droga ni alcohol.
No, I don't have any drugs or alcohol, no.
To the amended charge of speeding special hazard, which is a 3-point offense against your privilege to drive, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Al ser amendada en los cargos de manejando recio con un nivel de riesgo especial con 3 puntos, ¿usted cómo quiere responder? ¿Con la petición de culpable o la petición de no culpable?
Era culpable, ¿verdad?
Guilty, sorry.
Court finds that the guilty plea is knowingly and voluntarily made. I will accept the guilty plea from you and talk about your sentence in just a moment.
Señala que usted entró a la petición de culpable y que usted lo sabe y lo entiende voluntariamente. Yo acepto esta petición de culpable y ahorita hablaremos de sus cargos.
The sentence that the court will impose will be a fine of $90 plus court costs of $55 for a total of $145.
La sentencia que la corte va a poner entonces va a ser $90 y también después las tarifas de la corte por estos $55 por un total de $145.
Sí, estoy de acuerdo.
I agree.
The prosecutor has suggested that you take a level 1 driving class here on this plea form.
Everybody needs a moment to look a word up. Un momento, por favor. Thank you. El fiscal sugiere que usted tome una clase de manejo de nivel 1 que está aquí en esta forma de petición culpable.
Given what you told me about what happened here, and that this seemed to be an emergency circumstance, I am not going to require you to take that class.
Lo que sucedió y que la circunstancia fue algo de emergencia, yo no voy a hacerla que tome esa clase.
Keep in mind, like we talked about, speeding is a strict liability offense. So if you are caught speeding in the future, there is no excuse that will get you out from a speeding charge.
Y mantenga en mente usted, como platicamos, el exceso de velocidad es un crimen que es también de la habilidad estricto. Y si usted la atrapan de nuevo manejando con exceso de velocidad, no va a haber ninguna excusa en ese momento.
Sí, sí lo entiendo. Y muchas gracias, señor juez.
Yes, I understand, and thank you so much, Your Honor.
We're cutting you a little bit of a break here. Let's slow down and not be speeding in the future, okay?
No lo puedo quedar aquí por ese momento, pero por favor que no pase eso en el futuro.
Le doy mi palabra.
Yes, you have my word.
You're all set here, ma'am. We'll have you see the clerk to do a little bit of paperwork and get that fine paid, okay?
Ah, bueno. Thank you very much.
Está todo listo. La corte tiene todo el papeleo.
Thank you, interpreter.
No, I would never do that. Sure, yeah, no, that's tough when it's just on speaker like that. Thank you. Next case, the court will call be summons number 07926, people of the town of Frisco versus Martin Maloney. Mr. Maloney, are you here? Mind joining me at the podium there, sir? All right, Mr. Maloney, I have some paperwork here in front of me. Just want to ask you a few quick initial questions, and then we'll get down to the actual bit of business we need to do here. First and foremost, I'm going to show you the advisement of legal rights form. You see a signature at the bottom right-hand corner of that document. Is that your signature, sir? Do you have any questions about this form before you sign it? No. All right. The paperwork that I have here indicates that you wish to enter a plea of not guilty and set the matter for trial. Or I ask you if that's what you want to do. I'll just present you with the three options that you do have at this moment in time. The first option that you have, in no order of preference, mind you, is to enter a plea of guilty to the original charge. You would like to do so. If you chose to plead guilty today, the court would accept a plea from you and then enter a conviction and a sentence against you after the plea of guilty. The second option that you have is to plead not guilty and to set the case for trial. Trials right now are being set for November the 20th. So we do those same time, same place in the evening, maybe a little bit later so we can get through the rest of the docket. But November the 20th would be the date if you were to plead not guilty that you would have the trial. And if you have any questions about what a trial looks like, I can explain that to you in just a moment. And then the third option you have is if you don't know what you would like to do today in between pleading guilty or not guilty, you can always ask for more time. It's called a continuance, and you'd come back and see us and make a decision from there. Any questions about those three options?
In the event that I'm found guilty after trial, what are the penalties? Will they stay the same that's already on the docket, or can they change?
Yeah. So the maximum potential fine that you could face, maximum potential sanction, is $1,000 fine and or a year in jail. You're not looking at either of those. I would assume that, I will tell you, I won't be the judge here in November, but I would assume that the judge, it's Carlson, typically would assess you the fine listed in the summons itself. So you'd probably be looking, if you were to be found guilty, assuming the people proved you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, at a fine of $200, 4 points assessed against your privilege to drive for the careless driving offense, and then there's support costs and fees associated with it from there in the tune of about $55. So you're looking at probably a little less than $300, but there's no trial penalty, as it were. If the people convict you, we'll enter the conviction on the charge. If they don't, you're out a little bit extra time, but that's about it from there. Any other questions I can answer for you? It doesn't get measurably worse. No, that's for sure. That's for sure. No, you have a constitutional right to plead not guilty and have a trial. That's what the court's here for. So there's no penalty for exercising that right. Any other questions I can answer for you? Okay. Of those three options, guilty, not guilty, or to ask for a continuance, what should you like to do here today, sir?
I'm going to exercise my rights to go to trial, please.
All right. I'm a little pedantic, and I apologize, but we are making a record, so I have to hear the magic words. So are you pleading not guilty?
Not guilty.
All right, the court will accept your plea of not guilty. I appreciate you working through that exercise with me. We'll set you for a trial on November the 20th. Looks like that'll be at 6 p.m. So what you want to do for the trial is, obviously, the prosecutor will have an opportunity to go first and present the evidence that they have that speaks towards their case for your guilt. You are welcome to, at that point, to present any evidence you may have, any witnesses you may have. You are not required to present any evidence on your own behalf. You're also not required to testify. You have a constitutional right not to do both of those things. You also have a constitutional right to do both of those things if you would like to. We may have, do we have a handout about trial procedures? Okay, we do have a handout that we'll give to you about trial procedures. Just so you know, there are certain rules that govern how trials are conducted. Prosecutor will be bound to them, as will you. The court will help you through that as we work throughout the evening, working through the case itself. We'll give you some instructions about that. May also be good to do some Googling just so you know what you're in for before you come in. If you need any witnesses present for the trial, other than presumably the officer who issued the citation, and they refuse to come to trial, let us know at least 2 weeks prior so we can issue subpoenas for you. You can get those served and compel those witnesses to come in and testify on your behalf, should you like to do so. If you don't need that, it's perfectly fine as well. Any other questions I can answer for you? Okay, super. So if you haven't been given a little bit of paperwork, we'll give you some just to memorialize that date. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you on the 20th at 6 p.m. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Next case support will call be case number 07608, people of the town of Frisco versus Nicholas Kozmowski. Mr. Kozmowski, are you here? All right, if you don't mind joining me at the podium there, sir, thank you. And bear with me just one quick moment, just so I take a look through the file here. All right, sir, I have some paperwork in front of me that indicates that you're going to be entering into a guilty plea to an amended charge of a speeding special hazard, which is a 3-point offense against your privilege to drive here in the state of Colorado. Is that what you expect to be doing here this afternoon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Few questions for you that I've got to ask before we kind of get into the meat of the matter. First things first, I have an advisement form in my hand here, bottom right-hand corner is signature. Is that your signature? Best you can see it?
Yeah, that was what I signed when I entered it.
Okay, yes, it is. Did you have an opportunity to review this form and did you understand it before you signed it? Okay. Likewise, I have a plea of guilty form, bottom right-hand corner there. There's another signature. Is that yours? Did you understand that form before you signed it?
I did.
Few questions for you, and then we'll actually dive into the actual substantive work of getting this squared away for you. First things first, do you admit that there is a factual basis for your entry of plea or waive a factual basis? What that means in plain English is there is some event that underlies this that brings you here today that can justify your entering into a plea.
Yes, to the extent that I didn't agree with the original charge, but I do agree that, you know, there was possibly a version of speeding to which I will accept guilt for.
Understood. All right. Do you understand the nature of the charge, the original charge, speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour over the speed limit? Not asking you if you agree with it, just do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you understand what speeding special hazard means in the 3 points that it'll assess against your privilege to drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand that by entering into a guilty plea, you are waiving your right to a trial?
I do.
Do you understand what a trial is?
Not really, no. I mean, from what I've seen on television and all that, but I've never witnessed it firsthand.
The basic thrust of it is there's a presentation of evidence by the prosecutor. There can be one by yourself if you would choose to. And then ultimately the court makes a decision based on the evidence, whether you are guilty or not guilty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but would there be a jury involved or is this just?
This would be to the bench for this particular charge. Yep, absolutely. Do you understand generally what a trial is based on that discussion?
Yeah.
And do you understand that you're giving up that right by virtue of entering into this plea?
I do.
Okay. Did anybody force you, coerce you, threaten you, or otherwise make you sign this form?
No.
Okay. Are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or other intoxicants that would otherwise affect your ability to enter into this plea today?
No.
All right. To the amended charge of speeding special hazard, again, a 3-point offense against your privilege to drive, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
I'll plead guilty.
Right. The court finds that the plea is knowingly and voluntarily made. I will accept the plea of guilty from you. The court will enter a conviction on the charge of speeding special hazard, a 3-point offense. That's the amended charge. The original charge of speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour will be dismissed. Anything you'd like to tell me about what happened here before I impose the sentence?
Yeah, I guess just to the point that night, you know, I had been driving for multiple hours, had been stuck at the Eisenhower Tunnel for many more. I have lived in Summit County for 4 years and then frequently visit my parents up here. I do understand, and I've always kind of practiced that, like, when you're coming off the highway, it's important to decelerate. I know how much that the consequences can be for having highway speeds in town. And I guess the thing that I'm like most remorseful of is not being aware of my own speed at the time. That's part of the reason I'm pleading guilty, is because other than the accounts of that night, I don't have evidence to like support my innocence. So, and like, you know, between other factors, being unable to come back for court. So essentially that's kind of why I'm pleading guilty today, is sort of just to be done with it and accept hopefully a lesser consequences.
Understood. All right. Well, I appreciate that. And listen, I think we've all been stuck by the tunnel, so I know how frustrating that can be. Just watch your speed when you're coming through town for all the obvious reasons, most particularly people's safety, but also you don't want to have to end up back here. Okay. What I'm going to do is we'll like I said, enter the conviction of the special speeding hazard, 3 points against your privilege to drive. I will assess you a $90 fine plus $55 worth of costs for a grand total of $145. The prosecutor suggested here that you also do a level 1 driving class. I'm going to ask you to complete that within the next 3 months. I think you can do those online, to be honest with you. So what you'll have to do is just get that class completed within the next 90 days, and then just send proof of that over to the court. Here, we'll give you our contact information so you can do that. Once you've sent us that and paid the fine, this will be done and out of the rear view for you. Make sense?
Are you guys able to refer me to like where I could find these driving courses?
You bet.
Documentation on it.
Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Any questions about the fine, sentence, anything like that?
I think I understand. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So I'm going to hand this paperwork off. We'll get that fine taken care of, and we'll get you some information about the class. You're all set.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Don't give them to me if you want them back. I'll tell you that much. Next case, the court will call be citation number 07911, people of the town of Frisco versus Simon Schiffman. Mr. Schiffman, are you here? Join me at the podium there, please, sir. All right. Mr. Schiffman, I have in front of me a form that indicates your intention to plead guilty to an amended charge of a defective vehicle. That's a 2-point offense against your privilege to drive. That would result in a dismissal of the careless driving charge. Is that your intention? Oh, excuse me. And it would also be a dismissal of the no proof of insurance charge. Is that your intention, or how you'd like to go forward here today?
Yes, that was my intention. However, hearing some more information, I would like to ask for a continuance.
Let me, there's no court in October, right? November 20th. All right. So what we'll do, sir, is we will continue your case to November the 20th. A couple important things about that. So I have this plea form from you here. I'm just going to leave it in your file. Right? We haven't entered the plea yet, obviously, because we have sort of an extended colloquy if we're going to do that, as you've seen. We'll hold the form here. Presumably, the prosecutor will honor that offer when you come back in November if that's how you decide to proceed. If you decide that you'd like to plead not guilty at that point in time, you're welcome to. Those will be the 2 options that'll be presented to you at that session. Okay, so today you've got 3, one of which being the continuance, but we will ask you to commit to a decision when you come back in November. Any questions about that?
No, you explained it very nice. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, of course. And then when you do come back, well, the one thing that I will tell you is don't not come back in November, okay? If we set you for a court date in November and you don't appear, there's a whole lot of other rigmarole that gets rocking and rolling from there that you'd much rather avoid, okay? So just make sure that you come back and you see us on November the 20th, and we'll figure out what your decision is from there and see how you'd like to proceed, okay?
Understood, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. We'll get you just a little bit of paperwork with a reminder for that date, and then you should be set to go. You bet.
Thank you. No, yeah, I'm going to make sure.
Next case protocol be case number 07914, people of the town of Frisco versus Mrs. Summers. Summers, are you here? If you'll join me up here at the podium, please, I would appreciate it. Ms. Summers, I have in front of me here a form that indicates that you will be pleading guilty to a charge of speeding special hazard, which is a 3-point offense against your privilege to drive that would result in a dismissal of the original charge of speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour over the speed limit. Is that how you'd like to proceed today?
Yeah.
All right. A few quick questions for you. First up, I'm going to hold up the advisement form, bottom right-hand corner of that form. There's the signature. Is that your signature?
Yeah.
And did you have an opportunity to review this form before signing it? Did you understand the form before you signed it? Second form I've got here is your guilty plea. Again, bottom right-hand corner, there's the signature. Is that your signature? And did you have the ability to understand that form before you signed it? Okay. A few quick questions for you. First and foremost, do you understand the nature of the charge and the elements of the offense, both for the speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour over and the speeding special hazard? Do you understand what those are? Okay. Do you understand that by entering into a guilty plea here today, you are giving up your right to a trial, which is to have the people prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are guilty of these offenses? Do you understand you're giving that up? Do you understand what a trial is?
Yeah.
Do you understand the maximum penalties? Same thing I've told everybody. we're nowhere near the maximum penalties, but I have to advise you of the maximums, are up to a fine of $1,000 and or a year in jail. You understand that? Okay. Did anybody force you, coerce you, otherwise make you sign this form or make you any promises that are not contained within the four corners of this document? And are you under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or other intoxicants which affect your ability to understand what we're doing here today? All right. To the amended charge of speeding special hazard, a 3-point offense against your privilege to drive, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? Court finds that the guilty plea is knowingly and voluntarily made. I will accept the guilty plea from you and will enter a conviction on the speeding special hazard charge, 3 points against your privilege to drive. We will dismiss the speeding 20 to 39 miles an hour over the speed limit charge. Is there anything you would like to tell me about this before we go into the sentencing portion where I'll tell you what you owe and what you got to do?
So I got my speeding ticket by Walmart. And from Walmart to the stops, the red light, it's not possible to go 20 over. So I don't understand why he pulled me over. And then he waited like until we got to the roundabout to pull me over. So I'm just confused why it took him so long to pull me over. So I'm gonna say guilty because I don't want to go through the whole thing, but I don't think it was 20.
Understood. All right. I appreciate that. So what the court will do is it'll sentence you to a fine of $90 plus $55 worth of court costs and fees and surcharges. Ultimately, grand total there is $145. I'm also going to require you to do the level 1 driving class. And same as I had the conversation before, it's going to be within 90 days. So within the next 3 months, go ahead and get that course completed. Once you've got the course completed, we'll provide you with some information about what courses to take, etc. Once you've got that course completed, send over the proof to the court. You won't have to come back or do anything like that. If within 90 days you have not completed that course, please, please, please reach out to us. Okay, the worst thing that can happen is somebody doesn't do what the court orders them and then they disappear. Because then we've got to do warrants, failures to appear, all that stuff. Okay, so just make sure within the next 90 days you get that course done and get the proof over to us. If you don't have it done within that period of time, just make sure that you're in contact with us so we know you're making efforts, etc. But we really do want that to be done within 90 days. As to the $145, are you able to pay that today? Okay, excellent. So I'm going to sign this form. I'm going to pass it over to the clerks here. We'll get you all set and ready to go to get that fine paid, some information about the classes. Any other questions I can answer for you? All right, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I'm going to give you back your paper clip here, I promise. There you go.
That's everything you're on.
Oh, right.
Excellent. We'll go off the record then.
Perfect.
That's easy. Great piece of cake.
We're gonna have a late night in November, it sounds like.
You know what? That's what they would call a Ron problem. So. And he will resent me quite deeply. He's gonna go, what was the matter with you?
I'll have Leadville that day, hopefully. Might have a couple restitution hearings that day in Leadville too. It's just gonna be like a long day, me carrying around exhibits and just.
Well, I was just wondering if you want to try and do Indian trials early.
You can either drop it off.
It's tough with Leadville because you really don't know, like,
Yeah. That's what it is.
sometimes, like today it wasn't long, but sometimes
Do you want,
some of
do
the defendants were just going in a circle with for 30 minutes.
you know when Ron's back?
Sometime at the end of October. Because I'm gonna feel free to do Winter Park, Fraser, Silverthorne, and Dillon for October as well.
Good length of time, so would it be helpful to try and schedule these in October?
I think we could just jam through them. I mean, so.
I will say, I have to be up here for Silverthorne in October either way, so you let me know. I'll let you guys.
Okay.
make
I
that
have,
decision.
I already have a restitution hearing in Leadville in October. and
Ah,
I just hate to like be like, 15 minutes late to court.
Sure.
And
Well,
We hate
if
when
it-
that
if
happens
it's-
too.
If you reevaluate and you change your mind, you let me know. If you don't, then that's
Yeah.
fine as well.
it's
So-
fine. We've got the three, I